You have that other one to sign?
Sorry, what's it?
You have the other one to sign?
We don't have it over here yet, sir. We'll have it for you back at the over. The first is the rescissions of 78 Biden-era EOs and presidential memoranda.
You want to call it that? Do you want to say it? Do you want to say it?
Oh, if you want me to, sir.
Why don't you say what I'm signing?
Sure. The first item that President Trump is signing is the rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others. Thank you, sir. Thank you. The second item, President Trump, is a regulatory freeze, as you announced in your speech, preventing bureaucrats from issuing any more regulations until we have full control of this, the government and this administration. Thank you, sir.
Sir, can I have a pen?
The next item, sir, is a freeze on all federal hiring, excepting the military and a number of other excluded categories, again, until full control of the government is achieved and we understand the objectives of government going forward.
Could you imagine Biden doing this? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Sir, the next item, as you announced in your speech, is a requirement that federal workers return to full-time in-person work immediately. Thank you, sir. Next, we have a directive to every department and agency in the federal government to address the cost of living crisis. Thank you, sir. The next item here is the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Treaty. Yes, sir. We're going to save over $1 trillion by withdrawing from that treaty. And the next item, sir, is a letter that will be transmitted to the United Nations explaining that we are withdrawing from the Paris Climate Treaty. Thank you, sir. This next item is a directive to the federal government ordering the restoration of freedom of speech and prevent speech going forward. And lastly, sir, before we go back to the Oval Office to sign a large number of other items, is a directive to the federal government ending the weaponization of government against the political adversaries of the previous administration, as we've seen. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
You're watching our special coverage of Donald Trump's Inauguration Day. I'm Christian Fraser, picking up coverage tonight. We're going to continue to watch events here in Washington. We've just seen the signing of 9 or 10 executive actions. Let me quickly run through what we heard over the last few minutes. So the president rescinding their 78 Biden-era executive orders and presidential actions, freeze on regulation within federal government, freeze on all federal hiring until the Trump administration has got a handle on the size of government, a return of federal workers to the office, a directive for each department to address the cost of living crisis, which has affected so many families here in the United States. One that affects the international community, of course, the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Treaty, which he did back in 2017. It is worth noting that actually it did take them all the way to the end of the first administration until the United States fully withdrew. But this time, the feeling is that it will be much quicker. There was a directive to the UN explaining that they were doing that, a directive to the federal government ordering the restoration of the freedom of speech here in the United States, and a directive to federal government to stop the weaponization of the judicial system. So there you see the presidential party leaving Capitol One on the way to a series of inaugural dinners tonight. There is one for the military, another for the Trump supporters, and of course one for the high-rolling donors who are here to watch the inauguration in Washington. With me here in the studio, Axios contributor Margaret Tanner, and also Lance Trover, who was spokesman for Doug Burgum, the North Dakota governor, who is Donald Trump's nominee, of course, to be the next Interior Secretary. Welcome to you both. What did you make of that?
Quintessential Donald Trump, made-for-TV moment. What more would you expect from him to go in front of his supporters, 20,000 strong, and sign a bunch of executive orders that he promised to do in the campaign? I thought it was just a classic made-for-TV moment for Donald Trump. Yeah.
Two big sets of actions and orders that I actually fully expected were on that desk, but I think we're going to have to wait till later tonight. One, he certainly intimated that there's going to be a blanket wave of pardons or commutations or a combination of the both.
Tell me about that. So there was a thought that they would look at each case by case. Certainly Jim Jordan from House Judiciary Committee intimated that yesterday, but he's saying it will be a blanket.
He's not.
A blanket order?
He's sort of hinting and floating, and there's been a number of reports. Until I read the order, I don't want.
Maybe that is still to be decided.
And there are many more executive actions or orders awaiting him upon his return to the White House, which we actually thought would happen hours ago. So we are hours behind already. But one is what's going to happen to people who participated in January 6th, both nonviolently and violently. Some already sentenced and some not yet. So that's a big thing we're waiting for. And two, these border actions that he's been talking about all day, declaring the emergency at the border, so on and so forth. But what's the language and when will he sign those? Sort of a side issue. If you live in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, it's a Democratic city, it's a liberal city. The mayor, Muriel Bowser, no great ally of Donald Trump's. In the course of the last month, she's gotten two huge gifts from. One is the Congress signing over the old RFK Stadium site to her so the football team can perhaps move home and be redeveloped. And then the other, this requirement for federal workers to to immediately return to work in person every day. I mean, since COVID, downtown vacancy rates are a disaster. Restaurants are closed. Traffic has been better, blissfully. So that's about to be over. But this sounds like a good economic
I can
shock.
tell you it's very much an active debate in the UK as well, within the civil service in the UK.
I'll tell you one more thing. As we were talking and as the president was just talking, as he was signing this initial stack of orders, the Senate did confirm President Trump's first cabinet nominee, Marco Rubio, former senator from Florida. Now the Senate has voted for
So the first cabinet nominee
unanimously, and that's going to be the only unanimous vote I think you're going to get from these nominees. Things are about to get partisan real fast, but bipartisan support.
Just as we watch this, it is a celebration in the hall. It is worth noting that this today has been a much more intimate affair. You would expect in an ordinary inauguration the president to make a speech from the dais and then everybody to drift off home. But today they've been part of the entire day, this crowd, and they've seen something that they wouldn't be party to in a traditional inauguration.
Well, I think that goes to the special relationship that Donald Trump has with his supporters, right? They are the core of everything he is. He makes a lot of his decisions based on where his supporters are and what they're saying on social media, and that's the reaction you